Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. The dev server got updated and they added a few vehicles, so I thought we would have a look at them in separate videos. The first one is the Arras, which you can see here. This is a new French coastal vehicle that's coming in, which straight up just looks like a cargo ship which they've stuck guns to, which I'm guessing was the idea behind it, because it is just so obvious. The Arras is part of the Arras class, and you can find it in the coastal fleet between the VTB-19 and also the VLT-1, so once again adding to this left-hand line. What you have here is a machine which will be able to fire out some decent firepower against coastal stuff, but not sure about its overall survivability. So the main thing about this vehicle is it has access to two single-mounted 138.6mm cannons. Now these are the same mounts and the same guns that you find on a lot of the destroyers that are in the game for the French. The 138s I actually like quite a lot. They have access to a nice HE shell, which has a lot of TNT equivalent, but the main factor is this one, the common shell that they have, which has pretty decent penetration for destroyers, but also at the same time still keeps a lot of its TNT equivalent. So this means that it can do a lot more damage to targets by penetrating them and exploding, which is why I like this gun and also the 130s that the French have. But overall, you know, for coastal, since you're at 3.0, it might be worth taking more HE, just because of the fact that not many things have armor at this BR. You also have some secondary weapons, not many. You have this 75mm, which is on the front here, the 35 model 1897, and then also some 8mm guns on the back, which are the AA defense. They're not really going to do anything. They may pepper a target every so often, but don't rely on them. The 75mm hilariously has access to HE and also SAP, so you can penetrate stuff with, once again, nearly a kilo of TNT, which is quite nice. And then also a HETF shell, because why not? Why not, on this singular 75 on the front, have all of the crazy options. So because this is basically a cargo ship or a transport ship which has access to guns, the armor is still not really there on it, so it only has access to this armor here on the turrets, and then as you can see 16mm of the hull, which is better than some machines. Like if you have a look at the VTB-14, this has 40mm and 15 on the superstructure, but then others have, you know, different setups too, such as 24 and 15, but they're wood for the other coastal machines for France. So the Arras is set up with steel, which has different properties, to wood, therefore it will be a little bit more survivable, or at least it should be. The main survivability comes from the crew though, whereas a lot of these French machines only have 10, 20, 30 crew. The Arras has 100 of them, so spattered around the place, and that should be quite nice. It also is, you know, pretty nippy. 40 kilometers an hour is nothing to sniff at for a vehicle like this, and you can see it has two engines in the center, and then also transmission, fuel tanks protecting the engines, and of course the funnel. You've got the radio station and the bridge here too, so the major place to shoot this thing, obviously you have the ammo in the front and the ammo in the back, so just shoot them there. Since the engines are protected, you could get a really nice ammo rack on this thing from these areas, but if you're shooting somewhere else, it's probably not going to work. I will also say, I don't think this thing is finished. You can kind of tell by the texture. It's a little bit weird, right? Like, it isn't fully there. But also, at the same time, I think this vehicle is really cool to see, just because of, you know, the fact that it brings something different to the French tech tree for coastal. So I'm sure it'll be finished by the update, even if it isn't finished now. Because one of the problems with this coastal tree is every single one of them are these motor torpedo boats, and then there's a gunboat, which isn't really a gunboat, which is one of these vehicles here. And then you have, of course, the Combatant and the L9059. Whereas the Arras, it just gives something different, you know? It gives a larger caliber gun, it gives you a decent amount of main firepower, so you can actually go after stuff and have a bit of fun. The armor is a bit concerning, but it still should be quite fine. And one of the things you have to know about this vehicle too, which is super important, is the guns are really slow. So you can see here, this is the general fire rate of, sorry, not the fire rate, the turn rate or the targeting speed of the guns. It takes them a long time to get onto the target. And if you've played Naval Coastal, you'll know that there's a lot of machines which have kind of rapid fire, you know, ready to go guns all the time. So you're going to have to kind of sit back with these things. You can actually see the AA gunners. Look at this guy, like all the way down, doing a good old crouch. But yeah, there's the AT gunners having a great time with this machine. But just to get, you know, the front guns on target, it will take a long time to do it, and the firing angles aren't great because they're centrally mounted, and of course the big old bridge is in the way. But once you actually get shooting, as you can see, you are going to do quite a lot of damage to these vehicles, and that is the important thing, right? That is the big part, which is what you're trying to do. You're trying to hit these with the 138s and do damage. And also, at the same time, it means that you can do damage to destroyers as well. And one of the problems with a lot of these coastal machines is they struggle in terms of dealing with destroyers. Since this thing's going to be at 3.0, it's going to be fighting the early destroyers that you find. Stuff like the Mommy, for example, the Litchfield, things like that. And so many coastal vehicles struggle and have to rely on their torpedoes in order to, you know, get them going. You can see here the reverse is also nothing to really be happy about. But with two guns, the 138s, like the amount of damage that you should be able to do with these is quite nice, and it's going to be obviously a lot less than many of the French destroyers out there. But at 3.0, being able to donk, you know, machines such as other coastal boats quite easily, and then hopefully you stay out of that BR bracket, which is very powerful for coastal, which is of course the kind of like 4.0, 4.3 area, and instead you can play something similar to what a river class would play back in the day, where it would just kind of sit there with its donkey guns, then you would fire in, you would do a lot of damage to stuff, and have a bit of fun, right? So you can see here, even with like targeting the ammo, you still have to be, you know, decently accurate in order to do damage, and that kind of sucks, but we are still doing more than your standard coastal vehicle at this level, and we're causing fires, we're doing decent damage, and overall doing okay. And that to me is kind of the key for this thing. If you are able to set this thing up properly, which shouldn't be too hard to do, let's be honest, like it won't be something that is terrible to do on a lot of maps. Like maybe the hills, maybe the mountains get in the way, but if you're able to set it up properly, you can go after destroyers, do a bit of damage, kind of annoy them, but you can absolutely decimate coastal vehicles. And there's been a few vehicles over time, like stuff like the Flower class, for example, sometimes the Isle class, and also, as we talked about, the River class, the M802, which have had a similar role to this and been very, very powerful. And there's no reason why this one couldn't have the same power against other coastal vehicles thanks to its guns. I'm looking forward to hull breaking and overpressuring with these rounds. They're very powerful and will be very fun to use. And once again, it just gives the tree something a little bit different. And that's what it needed, instead of doing the same stuff over and over again. Oh, we ammo-racked him. Simple as. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.